The land stretched for miles, dry grass swaying in the wind, the horizon stained with the fading glow of a setting sun. At the center of that lonely expanse sat an old wooden ranch house, its paint chipped by years of dust storms and its fences mended with weathered hands. Martha Halloway, 72, sat on her porch in a rocking chair, knitting with a calmness that only those who had lived long and seen too much could know. To most, she looked like any other frail grandmother, gray hair tucked into a bun, glasses perched on her nose. But beneath the surface lay a history the world had long forgotten. Martha wasn't just a farmer. Once upon a time, she had been the deadliest sniper in a covert special forces unit. She had moved through jungles, deserts, and war-torn cities, her rifle an extension of her soul. Her codename had been Wraith. When she retired decades ago, she vanished into obscurity, buying this ranch with her military pension and choosing a quiet life far from blood and chaos. But fate has a cruel sense of humor. The bullies arrive. A cloud of dust rose on the dirt road leading to her ranch. 3 pickup trucks rolled in, engines growling, headlights piercing the dusk. Inside were a pack of reckless young men, local bullies who had been terrorizing nearby farms. They were drunk, loud, and bored. Martha's isolated ranch looked like the perfect target, an old lady with no family, no neighbors for miles, and a barn full of supplies. Easy pickings, their leader, Cody, sneered, spitting tobacco out the window. He was tall, broad-shouldered, with the swagger of a man who thought the world belonged to him. The trucks skidded to a stop outside Martha's fence. The men piled out, laughter echoing as they cracked open beer cans and brandished baseball bats and cheap pistols. "Hey, Granny," one shouted, "we're here for your chickens and your cash. Best you stay quiet and maybe we won't knock over your little rocking chair." Martha didn't flinch. She set her knitting aside, stood slowly, and looked at them over her glasses. Her voice was calm, almost gentle. "Turn your trucks around, boys. You don't belong here." Her tone carried the weight of command, the kind that once made hardened soldiers snap to attention. But the bullies only laughed harder. The shadows of the past. Inside the house, Martha's hands moved with quiet precision. She lifted the old rug in the living room and pulled open a hidden hatch. Beneath it lay a steel case she hadn't touched in 20 years. Her fingers lingered on the latches before flipping them open. Inside was her rifle, a custom sniper's weapon, matte black, scope polished, well-oiled even after years of disuse. Next to it lay her medals and a faded photo of her squad, men and women who hadn't lived to see retirement. Martha whispered a name, as if speaking to ghosts. Then she picked up the rifle. The feel of it in her hands was like slipping back into her own skin. The first shots. Outside, the bullies were kicking down the barn door, smashing barrels and laughing as chickens scattered. Cody leaned against his truck, lighting a cigarette. The first shot shattered the cigarette from his lips, sending it spinning into the dirt. The second shot blew out the front tire of the truck. Silence fell. The men froze, heads whipping toward the house. The night air had turned heavy, suffocating. Somewhere in the darkness, an old woman had just announced she wasn't prey, she was the hunter. "Who the hell fired that?" one of the bullies shouted, panicked. Martha's voice carried across the yard, steady as steel. "You step 1 foot closer, and you won't walk away." The hunt. Fear turned to anger. The bullies spread out, trying to flank the house. They fired their pistols wildly, bullets sparking against the porch. But Martha was no ordinary mark. She moved through her home like a ghost, rifle barrel poking out through cracks in the wood, each shot precise. One by one, truck tires exploded. Engines hissed as bullets tore through them. The men realized too late. They were trapped. Cody cursed and ducked behind a barrel. "She's just an old hag. Spread out. Rush her. She can't take all of us." But Martha had been trained to take on armies. She watched their movements through her scope, predicting them before they made them. She clipped a man's hat clean off his head, then grazed another's arm, forcing him to drop his pistol. Panic set in. What had begun as drunken bravado turned into a nightmare. The revelation. "Who are you?" one of the bullies screamed into the night. Martha stepped onto the porch, rifle in hand, moonlight catching her steel-gray eyes. "I'm someone you should have left alone." Her voice carried the weight of 100 battlefields. For the first time, the men saw not an old woman, but a predator who had lived longer than any of them would. The final standoff. Cody, desperate to save face, grabbed a shotgun from his truck. He fired blindly at the porch, wood splintering. Martha didn't move. She waited, calm, patient, the way she had in the deserts overseas. When Cody broke cover to reload, her shot rang out. The bullet struck the shotgun, ripping it from his hands. The weapon clattered uselessly to the dirt. The bullies dropped their weapons, fear finally breaking through their arrogance. Martha leveled her rifle at Cody. "You came here thinking I was weak. You thought I'd be easy prey. Remember this. Sometimes the quietest homes have the loudest ghosts." The aftermath. The men fled on foot, trucks disabled, pride shattered. They would never speak of this night again, not because they didn't want to, but because no one would ever believe them. Who would believe that a frail old woman had humiliated them, outsmarted them, and broken them without killing a single soul? Martha watched them vanish into the dark horizon. Then she returned to her porch, set the rifle across her lap, and picked up her knitting once more. The rocking chair creaked in rhythm with the crickets. Peace returned to the ranch, but a silent truth lingered. Martha Halloway was no ordinary grandmother. She was Wraith, and she would always be ready.